Now my challenge for you today is to be able to paint this pink flamingo using our watercolours and even some white paint as well. That one just there. White paint within watercolours, eh? I know. And that's something I'll show you how to do as well. Now this is a 3-part video. Let's begin painting this very pretty pink flamingo. The first step is to get the outline drawing of the flamingo on the watercolour paper. And all I've got here is a printout of the photograph in a very dull way on the cheapest setting possible. A piece of graphite backed paper, so shiny side down. Okay, you can just get a soft leaded pencil and pencil on the back of this one if you wanted to and do it that way around. Or mark around the edges as well so you can reposition this afterwards. I'll show you why in a minute. Then all you need to do, get a hard leaded pencil. This is a 2H mechanical pencil, but just a standard 2H or HP pencil will suffice for anything like that. Yeah. And transfer the outline using medium pressure, not too hard. In other words, sort of thing, so it doesn't hurt. So not too hard on the paper, all the way around. Let's remove the graphite paper. We'll then end up with something like that. There you go. If I like to soften that down using a putty eraser, just to remove some of that surplus graphite off the paper. And that is nearly ready, I say nearly ready, for starting on the painting. Now, as I mentioned, if you don't have any of this, the graphite back paper like that, there are different ways of getting outline drawing onto the paper. And I do have a YouTube video on that as well, that one up there, alright? So you can watch that later on if you want to. And because I added some little markers around the outside edge of my box here, you don't have to have a box around the image, of course not, but I want to in this case. Little tiny markers there, as you can see, all the way around. And I've just used my ruler to go around the outside edge all the way around. Then all we need to add on then is some tape. Any low tack tape will do. This is washi tape. It's really nice stuff to use, but it's extremely low tack. This one, which is called Crafter's Companion, is low tack, but not quite as low tack as that, and not quite as tacky as masking tape. Which you know, sometimes masking tape can tear the paper. This one can still do that, but we have to remove it gradually and carefully. Right, let's put this around the box now, and make sure it's well and truly stuck down. Now I want to paint the background first of all, and there's more than one way of doing this. One, you can just simply paint it around the subject, in other words this flamingo, as you can see, or you could use masking fluid, something like this PBO drawing gum here. What I'm going to do today, I'm not going to use that, which I would normally use, just for a change really more than anything. But if you do have masking fluid, I suggest what you do is put some masking fluid on the inside edge of the flamingo, probably no more than maybe 1/4 of an inch just inside the neck and also the head. And that should do, really. Once that masking fluid is dry, then you can paint the background. Well, let's get some green for the background. And you can see on the reference photograph, it's quite dark, isn't it? Really dark. So I need a reasonable amount of that in there, not too much, because it's not a large area there, is it? Not really. So blue, and again, make it creamy. Not watery, not milky, but creamy. Oh, now that is a nice colour, isn't it? It really is. We've got 2 colours mixed up for the background. We have a green and also sort of a black-blue colour. Now the full list of colours for everything that I use for this painting will be on my Patreon channel, just to let you know that. So if you need access to all the colour names, that's where you'll find them. Remember that link for the Patreon channel is down below. Let's grab a size 8 brush, that one there. I'm also going to be using a size 6 brush. But size 8, first of all, I'm going to use that one with clean water, and I mean clean water, to wet the background. Be very careful when you cut in towards the edge of the bird as well. Try and have a steady hand if you can. Something I'm not doing that well at the moment. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, there we go. That's better. And you want to wet the background 2 or 3 times, allowing the water to soak in for probably half a minute in between each layer. By doing so, it'll allow the paper to stay wetter longer and give you a little bit more time when you're working on the background as well before it starts to dry. Also put your head to one side so you can see where the paper's still wet and also where you've missed. Yeah, I very often find places that are not wetted yet. Like down there, for example. You'll also find it will start to dry the soonest within the corners. Normally does with me anyway. I also made up some blue as well. The reason why, when you look at that reference photograph, it starts off with sort of a green hint there, goes a bit darker towards the middle, And as it works its way over, slightly blue around this section here, and then goes more of a greeny tint around the bottom left-hand corner, and a little bit down the bottom as well. So let's start off with the green. But it's not going to be purely green, we're going to overlap this with our darker colour. I want to pop some green in first of all, and also towards this side as well. Now when you're working on a background, especially large backgrounds so bigger than this one, you got to remember where you started off first of all. And the reason why is because if you don't, it starts to dry in certain areas. And then you end up with those, as I mentioned, cauliflower marks, which, can look quite unpleasant sometimes. As I mentioned though, not always. Depends on the situation. Okay, so a little bit more down there. There we go, that's a green on already. I think I'll rinse that brush out just briefly. Give it a wipe. Then next lightest colour is going to be the blue. Let's add some of this down here. Try to be careful near the edges again, more so for the neck and the head rather than the beak. Because you find that if you do catch that beak there, because you find it's going to be harder to cover up the colour with pink than it will be if you're trying to cover up an overlap like I've just done there a little bit with the blue. So just worth bearing that in mind when you're working around it. Get a little bit more blue down there. I think that should be plenty, maybe a little bit around there. And also at the top as well, around there. That's plenty. Now let's crack on before it starts to dry. Our darkest colour, I'm going to add this one in now. I'm going to blend some of these edges together, which as I mentioned, going to be towards a green and in the green as well. So it's not completely bright green like that. I don't want it bright green. I want it to gradually go green. So again, be very careful around that edge. As neat as you can. You can tidy it up afterwards once it's dry if need be. But we'll see. There's only a hint of green showing, so I'm going to just blend that slightly now. Just using the tip of the brush. Give it a wipe. And then do the same around the blue area down here. Probably not enough blue in there, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Just to darken it slightly more, and then over the green again. So I'm going to carry on over the rest of this now, doing that. I would say take your time, but it's not something you can take your time doing really. Because I know it's always drying on, look at that. It's always drying on you. So I just put my finger on it. Try and put my finger down, that's the problem. Okay, let's crack on with it. Get this darkest colour on. Being careful around the beak. Oop. We know that's white in there, so I'll be using white anyway probably. Try to make it stand out. And around the top there as well. I don't want it too green or too blue. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So darken that blue down, dullen it. Just want a hint of it in there. Not bright, remember. I'm on about the paint, not me. And the same down here as well. By maintaining the wetness of the paper, it just enables you to keep working on it. So if you do see somewhere where it's starting to go a little bit drier, in other words, the shine's going off the paper a little bit, might be just popping back there again and maintaining the wetness of the paper. Just by using some more of your dark colour. Or any colours really. Especially if you think you need to go back there again. Because very often I do. Okay, let's leave that to dry now for a couple of hours. You can dry it with a hairdryer if you want to, but I think I want the paint to sort of mix and mingle. At least then it will dry nice and blended. Get some kitchen roll, nicely folded like that. Then mop up the edges, just to tidy up a little bit before it starts to dry. And then as I mentioned, leave it to dry. Be patient with it. There's no rush. Well, I think that will do for part 1. I'll see you again in part 2 when we start to work on that eye and also paint that beak. I'll see you then.